It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10-12 lengths.
So, hello and welcome back to episode number 8. Ronan Groome, I'm trying to keep a straight face here. You're sniggering at me. Welcome back to the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. We are back. I'm still trying to get used to this layout. I want to put in our selections down the bottom. Ronan, less than 10 weeks to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, counting down. You won't feel it coming around now. It's all Cheltenham, especially in these cold January weeks where there's nothing else really on to really get your it's now or never really time to get your anti-post kind of angles in, because there's very little in the way of quality racing on, as I'm sure we'll come on to later in the show.
Absolutely. And I suppose it wasn't the most hectic weekend of racing, Ronan Groome. For those who have, I suppose, just joined the series, I'm thinking maybe we should just go through our selections to date before we rattle in maybe to the big race of last weekend, which was the Tolworth. Ronan Groome, I tell you what, we're going to go to you. Talk us through your selections to date. Week 1, you put up Ellie May for the Mayor's Chase. Take it away.
Yeah, she hasn't really been her real self this season, but she's still alive. I believe she'll go for that race, Ellie May. So she's alive and she'll get there. Trying to think, guys. I have Riviere de Tel for the Arkle. I haven't given up on her for all that people said that she needed to beat Fernie Hollow that day. She'll still get £7 at Cheltenham. I think she's still a very good 2 mile novice chaser. And I think the only race she can really go for is the Arkle. I don't see them stretching her out and trip for the Mayor's Chase. So haven't given up on her. I have St. Felicien in a to win any race, waiting to see him. And as we were discussing
earlier,
go
for the Martin Pipe on the group.
Yeah, I'd be thinking something along that lines, but he missed his intended target on New Year's Eve. But I'm thinking maybe a run maybe before the Red Mills, into the Red Mills, and then something like the Martin Pipe or that sort of line. Maybe go back for the County Hurdle. It all kind of depends. Allaho is my captain. I like him. He's obviously rock solid for the stayers. I have him at 7-2. I have that mare Statuaire. I think she haven't seen her since Fairyhouse, so I hope she's okay. So a little bit of worry about her. Heaven Help Us is obviously a nice one. She's 33's, got her at for the Mayors. She's around 10-1 now, not bad at all. Galvin for the Gold Cup. Run Wild Fred as well for the National Hunt. Yeah, there were 2 solid ones I put in last week, Barry. Just wanted to get them on board because I'm pretty sure that they'll get to their respective targets, which is half the battle, as you know. And I might start getting a bit more speculative now and launch a few bigger prices, but wanted to get them on kind of rock solid sorts. And one that I had to go on was Knight's Salute for the Triumph, 16-1. Just thought that was a bit overpriced as well. So not major, but a couple of nice ones, and hopefully get a few more on side now between now and the festival.
Yeah, I started off the series, Ronan Groome, and I was going with the bigger price selections. Mighty Potter was my week 1 selection for the Supreme Novice Hurdle, and Energumen, 5-1. I'll be sounding the klaxons, Ronan Groome, if he goes to Clarence House. And let's hope he does. Let's hope Chiskin turns up and he puts them back in his box. 5-1. He's now, I think, best price. 9-4, 5-2, in around that mark. So happy with him. Magic Days was my week 2 selection for the Arkle, and she disappointed. So I'm not quite sure about that. 20-1. Janadil took the chance. He was my first long range effort. 50-1 for the Gold Cup. Took the chance.
Gone.
He had himself over 3 miles. That's gone, Ronan Groome. I don't think he even got entered in the Gold Cup. So he's one maybe that might play a hand in the Ryanair. We'll have to wait and see with him. I haven't given up on the horse, but the Gold Cup, I don't think he's not going to. We're not going to see him over 3 miles this season. Well, for the remainder of the season, Sporting John for the Stayers Hurdle, not my best effort.
Gone.
Also gone a season of attempts qualifier this weekend upcoming. So, that's just gone. Let's just say that. Sticking with the green and gold hoops, Capadano. I put him up at 20-1 before he ran at Nace over 2 miles and 3 furlongs on his seasonal reappearance run. I love this horse. And he's been backed in. He's as short as 8-1. A couple of shrewd judges, along with my good self, put him up for the National Hunt Chase. But look, he's gonna obviously have to qualify. But he looks the ideal type for me. He's the type of horse, Ronan Groome, that I wouldn't be afraid to see him in any of the novice chases beyond 2.5 miles. 2.5 miles or beyond. But he's a talented horse. I'm looking forward to seeing him again. The rest of the horses don't seem to be coming up on screen, but Porticello was put up for the Triumph Hurdle, Ronan Groome. So he was put up at 14-1 on last week's bumper episode. I think he could be overpriced. One for the Moors. In addition to Porticello, Tell Me Something Girl for the Mayor's Hurdle. I think she's rock solid. I put her up at 6-1. And yeah, look, she was probably the horse that I took out of Christmas the most with a view to the festival. I was kind of saving that on the selected performances last week because I wanted to throw her in the end as a selection. But she was giving weight all around, wasn't she? And she stepped forward from her season reappearance, and it seems to be all about Cheltenham with her. So 6-1. There's an argument to be said probably that she could be a lot shorter than that. This was based on what we saw at the festival last year. And the way Henry's ran even at Christmas, so I'd imagine she'll improve. Florine Porter, he was my first wild card, and I would be confident that he could reverse the form. Given I suppose the race is ran, I suppose if he gets the rub of the green, gets a clean break at the start in the Stairs hurdle, I think he'll rock up with a super chance there. 7-1, he's going straight. And there was another one, Ronan Groome. Algegore de Vasse. She was impressed.
Say that in your best Jerry Hannon accent.
Algegore de Vasse. Yeah. I'm hoping now that the rest of the selections are showing up, but I have her in for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. She was well in, of course, wasn't she? Based on her French form at Fairy House. But I'm looking forward to seeing her again. And could we see her maybe in the Sol Arena?
Potentially, yeah. She course form.
Course form. So they were the selections, Ronan Groome. Let's get on with this show. And let's talk about the big race of the weekend, which was the Tolworth Hurdle. Constitution Hill. We spoke about him on Thursday's podcast. He was 2-5 to win the Tolworth Hurdle. And now he's 5-2 to win the Supreme. Talk to me.
Yeah, look, he was good, Barry. What can you say? He scooted clear on the run in. He recorded a good time. He really moved well on the heavy ground. It was a real slog, as you saw at Sandown on Saturday. And look, he's done nothing wrong on 2 starts. What did he beat though? That's my one qualm. I'm just a bit worried about the form and the fact that he's done both of his runs have come over the same course and distance now. And I've nothing against the horse. What I have is a question about that sort of price for the Supreme. And I'm kind of jumping sections here because I did think he was a little bit overrated. I think the cut of his price into 2-1 for a few factors it's just worth taking into account. One being, I don't think the Irish novices have even got going yet. I think Sir Gerhard's won a maiden hurdle. Dysart Dynamo's won a maiden hurdle. There must be 2 or 3 more in Willie's. And I just think we're going to see them in the next couple of weeks. The Dublin Racing Festival, there's another grade 1 there. At Punchestown this Saturday, we have the Moscow Flyer novice hurdle. That's going to unleash another couple. The entries for that come out tomorrow. And I just think we've overrated these 2 Henderson horses a bit because they've done their stuff early in the season, but I have this feeling in the back of my head that the Irish novices are coming, and those two, John Bon and Constitution Hill, are taking up too much of the market. So I'd be willing to take them on at this point. As I said, nothing against the horse. Thought he did it well. You can't argue with the time he clocked. But the horses he beat in behind, gee, Mac, I don't know. I mean, are they getting close? Is it as good as a grade 3 in Ireland, that grade 1? I don't know. I'd have serious questions about the level of form. We saw Metier win that race last season. He looked like a world beater, and what happened to him at Cheltenham? He was nearly lapped. So I'd issue caution with Constitution Hill. That would be my conclusion.
I think it's a great word, Ronan. Now, I have to say, that's based on his price alone. I love the horse's attitude, love the way he jumps. He obviously has, he obviously came from the point-to-point scene. He seemed to relish the heavy ground, didn't he? In the Tallworth last weekend. But you're absolutely right in what you say. Jetoyle, Mr. Glass, shall we have one more? Where would they finish in the Supreme?
They wouldn't even start, would they? They're all Mr. Glass, probably a chaser in the future.
So he's entitled to win. He was absolutely entitled to win in the fashion that he did. He's the type of horse, he strikes me as the type of horse that he's probably only going to improve, but his biggest competition could come from his own stable in John Bon. So it'd be interesting, but you used the word caution. Based on, it's probably too short at 5-2.
That's a good point, though, Barry. Just to stop you there quickly, does Henderson split them up? Does he go up and trip with Constitution Hill? He did. I was reading the other day. He did liken him to Simon Sig, who obviously went up to the Ballymore or whatever the race was called back then, but. Does Henderson get a bit windy and want to have his two best novices in the two grade 1 best novice races? Is that
wouldn't be like Nicky to get windy, would it? In fairness to Constitution Hill, you could see him going up and trip. He's obviously proven on a stiff course at Sandown on softer ground now. So the way he relaxes in his races, you'd probably see him going up and trip rather than John Bon if one was to go. But the Supreme, it looks a hot little, I suppose at the front of the market now, it looks to be shaping up like a hot little heat. And it'd be interesting to see what comes from left field. I was quite impressed by Willie Mullins' El Fabiolo, won at Tremor. So it'd be interesting to see what a horse with that sort of profile maybe come from left field. We saw with Asturian Forlange won a maiden and came from absolutely nowhere, and he lined up, a sharp price. So it'll be interesting to see what goes, maybe what might emerge at the Dublin Racing Festival. But at this point, to me, I'd be looking at this market saying that Constitution Hill, I certainly wouldn't be backing him at that price. That's not saying he's obviously a worthy favourite at this stage, but how strong that race is, we just don't know. Selected performance, Ronan Groome, of the weekend. Jump in.
Yeah, I liked Dunvegan. Now, I'm not sure, is he a horse for Cheltenham or not? He's in the champion chase, which would look a bit ambitious, I suppose, but he's gained he seems to have a big following, Dunvegan. A lot of people back him on social media. A lot of people follow him and back them for big handicaps. Yeah. And he's never had his luck. But I spoke to Pat Fahey on Friday just for a little piece for the field, just to preview the race. And Pat's a great guy, great character, and he just felt that the horse was unlucky, wasn't it? I was asking him about Fairyhouse. Why does Fairyhouse bring the best out in him? And he said it's not Fairyhouse. It's just the horse has been a bit unlucky. He's had horses jump in front of him. He's had horses fall in front of him, and he got crowded out of his fences in these big chases. And he was just saying that we decided to let him go out and attack his fences from the front the last day, and it really suited him. And that seems to have been the key with him, because him and Blackball went at it here from the front, and it dominated the race. And Blackball was well backed beforehand. Potentially, people feeling that he was well handicapped, or that sort of word coming out from the Mullins yard that he was, and two of them finished clear. But Dunvegan was a comprehensive winner in the end, and I haven't seen his revised rating today, but I'd imagine he's getting another £10 for that, maybe the guts £10 anyway. So he'd be up to the mid 150s. But I'd give him. I think he'd still be a threat off that mark in another 2 mile chase. Maybe they go for the Dublin Racing Festival, the 2 mile handicap chase there. It's a bit longer as well, which might suit him. It's 2 miles, 1.5 furlongs. So, and maybe they have a crack at the champion chase. I'm not saying for sure. I'm not saying I'd be backing him or anything, but he could have an impact in that sort of race going from the front. And but for the Dublin Racing Festival, I'll keep keeping an eye on him for that 2 mile, 1.5 furlong race. He'd be my be interesting to me going forward anyway.
He's been hanging around a while, hasn't he, Dunvegan? They tried him on all sorts of trips. We mentioned him on the podcast on Thursday night, and it seems they seem to have found the key to him, don't they? Back at 2 miles, and he's ground versatile because he's proven it on a couple of different types of ground now. Interesting to listen to Brian Cooper afterwards, after the race, speaking about maybe Pat finding something like maybe a grade 3 or grade. He did mention the words Grand Annual, so it'd be interesting to see where they do go next, whether they will go Dublin Racing Festival, find something maybe a grade 2. I'm not sure what options he has in terms of grade 2s or grade 3s in Ireland, but he's probably entitled to step up in grade now, isn't he? And he has that entry, of course, in the champion chase. But I don't know. I thought the second horse actually there, Black Bow, ran good on season reappearance. He obviously was well supported, but he's quite lightly raced, and I know obviously they think a lot of Black Bow, always have, and he has some decent novice chase form from last year, Black Bow. So interesting to see with him. Look, he is priced up, but the two of them are 20 to 1 for the Grand Annual. So sometimes the Dan Moore can be a pointer towards that. We saw it last year with Antukas running quite well in the race, going on to finish second in the Grand Annual. Selected performance for me. I want to actually mention two here, Ronan. 2 maiden hurdle winners at Cork. It was slim pickings, of course, over the weekend, wasn't it? But the 2 maiden winners, Chantruse and Ebasari, both impressed me. The first, Chantruse was first time up to 3 miles, had only had 2 stars, won a bumper for the Curlings in Clonmel before going to Henry de Bromhead late in the spring. And he was having a second run over hurdles. He was 4 to 6 favourite. Seemed to relish the step up and trip and testing conditions. And he was a runaway 17-length winner, and I thought he was quite impressive, to be honest. And one thing I would say, he ran a good race over 2.5 miles at Punchestown. Rachel wasn't harrowing on that day, and he barely even got a slap in Cork up to 3 miles. This horse could be quite unexposed for Henry de Bromhead. We saw it with the likes of Manella Endo going slightly under the radar for something like an Albert Bartlett. He's priced up for that. And I think this horse could be quite talented now. So he's quite, as I say, lightly raced. He's only had two runs now over hurdles, so he could go under the radar for Cheltenham. Ebasari, this horse was supposed to be picked up by Willie Mullins, had 5 runs on the flat. An Aga Khan horse who ran 5 times on the flat without winning for Michael Halford. Willie Mullins was supposed to have acquired this. I don't know did the sale fall through in the summer, but he ended up with Gordon Elliott. And this race, I think this race might prove the form might work out decent in time, because they pulled a good 27 lengths, I think, away from the third, the front two. Now, adamantly chosen was just touched off at Fairyhouse by Gringo de Brel. Ebasari was getting plenty of weight, but I thought first time up over hurdles, I think Davy Russell had said afterwards that he was showing decent at home, but might have been a tough ask to go and overturn the 1-4 shot. And I thought it was impressive. He is a 4-year-old, so I'm sure he has options whether he wants to go down and stay in juvenile, or go down to juvenile company, or what they will do with this horse. But either way, it's a syndicate, Ronan. I'm not sure if you've come across the Royals and Blue Syndicate, but I'd say they'll have plenty of fun with this fella. And he is quoted with certain firms for the Triumph Hurdle. I'm not sure if that's with Phil Dore and Gordon's options here. I'm not sure if that's the route that they'll go with him, but I thought it was an impressive performance. The race might work out decent. So that was Ebasari and Chantruse, I think, on a weekend that wasn't action-packed. Those are two horses I think that'll be winning plenty of races. Over and under section, the Golden Groom. Talk to me. What have you?
Yeah, well, I've kind of mentioned my overrated already. Is Constitution Hill, just on the price thing. So I'm not going to go through that again. But I explained already earlier on. Underrated, I liked St. Sam at Fairyhouse. I thought he jumped nicely. And interesting that he's allowed to make his debut over fences so late in the season. Usually, you see with Appreciated, where he obviously pulled up stumps and said, no, we don't want to waste the beginner's chase season when you can only have half of it as such. But they decided to send him chasing, and I thought he did it nicely. He won quite smoothly, beat the Devil's Coachman, a horse I like, who ran well in the beginner's chase before, and El Barra, who was only beaten 5.5 lengths by St. Sam's stablemate Blue Lord, who's a short price now for the Arkle and won very nicely since. But St. Sam had him well held as well. And I don't know, maybe he's just a little underrated going forward, considering where he already has Blue Lord and Fernie Hollow as 2 mile chasers. But it's not beyond the realms of possibility at all that Willie has a lot of good 2 mile chasers, just the way he's stacked with talent in so many divisions. So St. Sam be interesting for me. His form over in juvenile hurdles last season is very good. The only horses that really beat him were like Susanna here, Quilixios, and Jeff Kidder, obviously, all grade 1 winners, or grade 2 winners at least on their day. So he looks like he's going to be much better over fences the way he jumped, and I'd be interested in him going forward.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I suppose that we spoke to Shark Hanlon on the podcast earlier in the week, and I thought it was a decent run by Sky Ace as an underrated performance. She ran credible. I felt she travelled nicely into the race. I thought it was a good step forward, and he wasn't happy with the ground going over Shark. She'd put in 2 modest enough runs. But I think this horse could be geared up for a good spring campaign, Sky Ace. So I'd say that might end up a fairly underrated performance. Martello Sky, obviously, 2-1 favourite. Sorry, second favourite behind Galwaz. She's gone and backed up her form. But I thought Sky Ace, the way she travelled into the race, I thought it was a very credible run. So I'd say that probably the winner was probably underrated herself, and the one I take from the race was Sky Ace. Overrated, look, you mentioned it. I think Constitution Hill, the reaction for the Supreme Novices Hurdle, I'm not sure. Possibly overrated based on the form of the race. So
he's going to go win by 20 lengths now, it seems, as we've talked him down.
Yeah, well, look, I'd rather couple the 3 or 4 in behind than back him at 9-4. So he'd be a lay for me at the price. That'd be Constitution Hill. Albeit I do like his attitude, and I do like the way he jumps his horse. He's a likeable horse. Just it's a price thing for Constitution Hill. Tracker horse Ronan Groome. What have you got for me this week? Slim pickings, as we keep saying.
Yeah, it was, but tracker horse, and then we might answer a few questions from the comments after this, Barry. I have a couple here written down from last week. But my tracker horse is the horse I napped on Thursday on our podcast, Sir Ivan. Now look, he's got plenty of miles, as they say, plenty of mileage, but he was a huge drifter on the day. He went out to 22-1, and I'd given up hope. I'm presuming the drift was according to the ground, it was obviously very heavy at Sandown, and he's a horse that had been pulled out before on an unsuitable ground excuse. So given that he definitely probably was ill at ease on the ground, that he managed to travel well through the turf and still be there in with a shout at the last, basically just getting outstayed by Final Nudge and the winner, Prime Venture. I thought that was a big run. So I think on better ground, back at Sandown, where he's run 2 big races in that Veterans Chase, I'm nearly sure there's a good 3 mile handicap chase on the same weekend as Dublin Racing Festival, the same card as the Scilly Isles. So I'd be interested in him for that back at Sandown, because he's run 2 big races there now, and back on a better surface. He could be well overlooked again because he is a 12-year-old, because he has lots of runs. But that's 2 really good runs at Sandown in a row. So he'll I'll have another look at him next time if they get him back over that course and distance.
Interesting, Mr. Groome. I'm going to give a horse at Ayr. Gordon Elliott sent a few over, didn't he? For an Ayr raid, and the bumper horse of Nicky Richards, Tofu, came in for a lot of support overnight. I think he was backed from 2-1 right the way down to 8-11 favourite. So he was absolutely hammered overnight. But he ran as green as grass. A 6-year-old boy, authorised, was having his first start. It was just very green. It was, I'm not sure how good the Elliott horse is, but Brian Hughes was riding Tofu, was outpaced going down the back. I don't even know if he was outpaced or he was just very green. But you want to see the way this thing finished. You came rattling home. And I just thought, when the penny dropped with him, he really hit the line hard, really picked up in the straight, and I'd say he'll be winning races. That's Tofu, TFOU. The ground he made up in the straight, because he was well outpaced now, but obviously came in for a lot of support. So he's in the tracker for me. And there was another horse I just want to mention, because previously one of my tracker horses actually goes at. I like these tracker horses in bumpers, but he goes in the 405 tomorrow at Exeter. Cruise Control is out for Tom Lacey and Stan Shepherd, and I'd say he's well capable of winning this. He is the favourite, but I'd encourage the listeners to go back and watch his last race as well. 2 horses I'd say that I'm not sure will we see the rich. I'd say he will go jumping. Whether he's going to go and run another bumper, Tofu, it'll be interesting to see. But both will be heading over hurdles, I'd say, before too long. But Cruise Control, let's hope he goes and does the business tomorrow. For our old friend Tom Lacey, Doyle and Groome, you're going to read out a couple of comments.
Yeah, I'll throw the first one to you, Basil. Craig O'Donnell from Copenhagen. Craig's been putting in selections all season. Fair play. He's just asking about Janadil, who you're obviously a fan of at the start of the season. It seems like he's backed him for the Ryanair. He was thinking he's kind of a Naplu Tar number 2, and I think he's on a 20, so he's on a good price. What do you reckon for the Ryanair? Reasonable chance of running second to Allaho by about 10 lengths, do you think?
Yeah, it's one of those races, isn't it? You talk about Janadil Naplu Tar round 2. That was exactly my thinking, Mr. O'Donnell in Copenhagen. He was that type of horse, wasn't he? Decent enough form over 2 miles. Was a grade 1 winner. And was stepping up to 3 miles. He just didn't stay. And I think Willie said it after Mark Walsh reported a non-stayer. So it was disappointing. But I'd give him every chance, freshened up, going to something like a Ryanair. I know you love Allaho, but there wasn't much between him and the John Durkin. And, a good each-way value. I'd say this is where he's going to line up. What other options does he have, Janadil? So I'd be certainly... the one thing I would say is what Janadil is holding up more than 33% of the market, is he? 7-4 in a place for the Ryanair. Everything in behind him, there's the middle section of that market has yet to kind of take shape, and I suppose if you look down through, the likes of Energumene, First Flow, the likes of Shan Blue, Envoy Allen, Tornado Flyer, Shaq and Poursuois, there's a good middle section of that market, holding up more than 50% of the market. So, Janadil, you'd have to think that is the route he'll go. And I would be saying he's probably a good each way bet at this stage for the Ryanair, although I'll be holding fire for the moment.
Yeah, sure. Craig is also on Galliard de Mainil. I actually think he has a chance of going for the 3 miles, that horse, but he has to improve on what he did last day. And another just interesting angle from Twilight. He said kind of just alluding that Rachel has messed up on Manila Indo a few times, which I think is a tiny bit harsh, but you can see where he's coming from. I think Rachel said herself it wasn't her finest hour after the King George. Yeah, I just said the King George thing there where she's taken Frodon on and probably went faster than Manila Indo was used to. I know you're not the biggest Manila Indo fan now for the Gold Cup, but I think he's asking for Jack Kennedy back on, and obviously Jack was brilliant on him in the Gold Cup last season, but I wouldn't give up. I don't think it's a Rachel thing. I just think maybe she got it wrong on that day. I don't think there's an inherently wrong. They don't have she gets it wrong the whole time. She obviously won the Albert Bartlett on him and will know him well from writing it for Henry and out there. But I don't know. Did you have an opinion on that, Basil?
Not really. Move on.
Yeah, and Neil Morris mentioned there that the National Hunt Chase wasn't I'm pretty sure he's wrong. He's saying that it wasn't an amateur jockey race. I think that was just for last season, Neil. That's was a COVID restriction thing where the amateurs weren't able to. Yeah, so it's back to being an amateur race here. So you have Jamie Codd, Patrick Mullins, Derek O'Connor, all the lads and ladies will be back at Cheltenham this season.
And if Paddy doesn't want Capitano, Derek O'Connor, I'm sure will.
And that's it, really. Yeah, it's just looking through the comments there, but keep the questions coming. We try and answer them in the comments, but some of them are good discussion points for shows in future, so we'll try and include them here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to mention the engagement in the comments. People seem to be really enjoying it. It's really catched on again, Ronan Groome. And there was a query just, I think was it Russell Stanton just asking about, obviously, when you are putting in your horse, when you are taking a selection, obviously it's today's Monday afternoon. When you're putting in your selections this week, it's obviously the price. It's not what you took the horse at a month ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago. Put in the price of the horse that you're taking the price as of now, in the present, this week. So this week's selection, for example, what is the price of the horse that you're putting in? So I know for some people that might not be, that is the rules. So, take your selection, whatever price it is, it has to be priced up with two, I suppose the price has to stand with two firms, and that's obviously that is the format. Ronan Groome, the nicest bloke in racing. You were christened last week on the Champ.ie podcast. I'm not sure who it was in the comments. Hector Hugo, I think it was. So I think Tom Leach was coming in asking, how much did you pay Hector to say that? But anyway, talk to me. What are you doing? Are you doing a wild card? I tell you what, give us your regular selection this week.
Yeah, I'm playing a regular selection and I'm playing a long range effort.
Ooh.
So my regular selection, as you might have guessed earlier on, is for the Ballymore Novices Hurdle.
Oh, Ronan, give me a no. I tell you what, can I guess it? Because I was like, I've been thinking, you give a clue away. You said you mentioned this horse first, so I'll dispute it if I think it needs to be disputed, but it can only be two horses. And I'd say it's trained in Ireland.
It's not trained in Ireland.
Oh, wow. I thought you were campaigning for this horse to go for the Albert Bartlett. Talk to us. Tell us who it is.
Did I say Albert Bartlett? Sorry, I meant Ballymore novices. Sorry.
I think you were listening to me. Go ahead.
In fact, I'm putting up Hillcrest.
Ooh. Fair play to you.
I'm taking a chance.
Ballsy move.
As I said, I think if they say tomorrow he's going for the race, I think he should be one of the favourites. I just think what he did at Cheltenham on New Year's Day when he beat I Am Maximus, the pair of them pulled clear. He ran a faster time than Stormy Ireland. Jockey Richard Patrick didn't need to use his whip, just pushed him out. I think this could be a bit of a monster, this fella. Now, he's a huge horse. His future lies over fences, but if they're so inclined to have a go at Cheltenham this season, and I think if they were going to go for a race, they should go with the same course and distance as that race he won at Cheltenham. And the Albert Bartlett can leave a mark on some horses. So if they are thinking there is a race for him at Cheltenham this season, go the tried and tested route, the 2 miles, the extended 2.5 miles there. Sorry, obviously that was on the new course, so you'll be on the old course in the Ballymore, but more or less the same test, with a few idiosyncrasies. But I think this could be a real class horse, and he's 20-1 with 2 firms, so I'm going to get him on side, and I'm happy to take the chance that he mightn't run. And yeah, look, if he doesn't run, I've played a bit safe with horses. I've gone for horses that I'm pretty sure are going to go for the races now, but this is the first one I'm really going to have a swipe at to take the Ante-Post angle in there and see how it develops. But as I said, if they decide to go and run him in this race, I think he'd be up there with the favourites. He's achieved probably more than most of them, the likes of Journey With Me and horses that are at top of the market already. And I think he's a top prospect, so I'm going to get him inside. Do you want me to play my long-range effort now?
No. I need to come in on this because it was tactics from Ronan Groome, because it was funny. Like, first he tried to throw me off with a different race. I think you go Albert Bartlett route last week. And then next minute you say, oh, would the Irish novices, would he get found out? But the more I thought about it, and, I'm nearly with you on this one, Ronan Groome. I think he's if they were to go this route, this horse might take a bit of stopping.
Absolutely.
Will they go this route? That's the question. And
that's the question. That is the question.
Yeah. Fair play to you. Go ahead. Talk to me.
Right. Long range effort. Stayers Hurdle. 25-1. Freely available, I believe.
20 what?
25-1. Freely available. Darver Star for Gavin Cromwell.
Jesus.
Look, I'm taking a flyer. That's what you do with your long range efforts. You take a flyer on these horses, and I was close to having a go at another horse here, which I'll come on to in a sec. But Darver Star, I just think back over hurdles. That run the last day at Punchestown, that was such a contrast to his run in the Paddy Power Chase.
You've been drinking with Bob Fagan in County Loud. What's going on?
Can I make the case and then you can come in?
Go ahead.
All right. Anyways, I just think back over hurdles, we could see the real Darver Star again. The Darver Star that finished second to Epatante in the champion hurdle. The Darver Star that progressed through the season magnificently for Gavin Cromwell 2 seasons ago, and over 3 miles you could even see a better type of Darver Star. The contrast from his run in the Paddy Power, which came on the 27th of December, and his run on New Year's Day at Punchestown was massive. Absolutely. He wasn't going a yard, jumped poorly. He just looked a much better horse back over hurdles. He won by 20 lengths in a good field now. He beat good horses, the likes of Home by the Lee, Cilias Emery. No trees, useful, good horses, and he beat them legless. He won by 20 lengths. I believe he goes for the Boyne hurdle or the Galmoy hurdle next. That was mentioned by Gavin after the race, and that's the leap of faith you take. If he goes well in either of those races, I'm sure they'll be thinking about the Stayers hurdle, and he'll be a real life contender for that. So yeah, I'm taking a stab on him. Darver Star, 25-1. 33 is available with Sky Bet, but because you're such a stickler for the rules, Barry Doyle, I have to go for the 25s freely available elsewhere. So Darver Star, long range effort on the week. What are we on? Week 8.
How dare you, Groom? And me putting in Floating Porter as my wild card, but I actually backed him in Punchestown, and he looked back to himself, did he? He was
big time.
Yeah, pretty decent, to be fair.
Locally owned to yourself as well, Basil.
Yeah, well, shout out to Mr. Fagan and the Darver Star gang. Yeah, look, it'd be nice to see if they do go maybe to the Galmoy. Royal Cahatla, delighted to see she's got a mention for the Galmoy hurdle. I think that will suit her down to the ground, in against the Geldings and soft ground, Gorham Park. Could she be a stairs contender potentially? Could she maybe win a Galmoy and be chucked into something like a stairs hurdle?
Needs soft ground.
Yeah, she needs it. I'm not sure if Cheltenham is her track, but I think if she went Galmoy, I'd be very interested in her there. My selection for the week, Ronan, my selection isn't as liberal as yours, or selections. I'm going with one selection this week, and I'm playing a little bit safer. I'm going for a race that you did say to me earlier. I'm trying to keep my selections. I'm trying not to pick two horses in the one race, but I think I must admit I got the Arkle wrong. And it's a race I love, and I think the market maybe after taking a little bit more shape than some of the markets. And that's why I've come down. I found it hard actually to pick a selection this week. And this is a horse that I've actually backed at 33-1 for the Arkle. It's no use telling the listeners that now, but Blue Lord is a horse that you can still get 7-1 on. Ticks a lot of boxes when it comes to the what's now called the Sporting Life Arkle. He was rated 148 over hurdles. Obviously, was running a belter in the Supreme. Was very keen in his races last year. I think it's been documented he is settling better in his races. He seems to have grown up a bit. A 7-year-old now, and I thought he was foot perfect running on both his starts over fences. And the contrast in price between maybe Fernie Hollow and him, I think, is too big at this stage. Whether they meet at the Dublin Racing Festival, I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see. But this horse has after grown up a lot, I think. And I remember interviewing Darryl Jacob last year, and when I mentioned Blue Lord, and you could just hear the tone of voice. Darryl Jacob obviously held this horse in high regard, and the Minears obviously do. So this is the route he'll go. It's been documented, so we know he goes for the race. There's 7-1 still available, and even as a dirty each way bet at this stage, I'd say the Arkle probably will cut up. And if you're to look at the market, there's lots in there. Yeah, Riviera Tell, 10-1 chance. Ronan, not really. I know you've put her up, but I'm not really sure we can make a case for her to reverse form with Fernie Hollow, given the fact that she won't get weight come Cheltenham. Hot and Colours, I don't know, decent horse, but maybe up and trip for him. And you come down the field, and you're looking at third time lucky 25-1, Saint Sam 33s. And everything after that, we wouldn't have seen. So I think this market has taken a little bit more shape. I'm happy to row in on Blue Lord at 7-1. He will line up. He will be shorter on the day, and I like the look of him. And he's my selection for week 8. Want to come in on anything I said? Would you be with or against?
He's all right. He looks like he's a much better chaser. Obviously, got the course and distance form last season. He's much better chasing anyway. So yeah, he's a live player. He's a solid, if not spectacular, selection, I'd say.
Yeah, another solid one into the books, Ronan, and I might open up the cannons maybe next week. We'll see. But that was episode number 8 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. I'd like to continue to encourage the viewers to continue to get involved. Put in your selection for week 8. Make sure that your selections are priced up, or your price is available with 2 bookmakers. So that is obviously the rule. Get your comments in down below and get some questions in for us, because myself and Ronan enjoyed going through the comments, picking out a couple of talking points from this week. And yeah, that's really it. Ronan, anything left to say?
No, looking forward to the racing this week again. Well, what we have of it, as I said on Saturday, a big race, the Moscow Flyer. So that should change the Supreme market again. So make the most of the bits and pieces of quality action to come through in January, and then we'll be full steam ahead to the Dublin Racing Festival.
And get on cruise control tomorrow. See you next week.
Inside by 150 yards, this is a special pair, and it's a Hattons full of grace. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10-12.